Hey everyone, it's Dr. K. So a lot of people have asked a lot of great questions regarding fascia. One of the most common ones I get asked about is, what does fascia actually do? So a lot of the research out there is basically pointing in the direction that fascia is a key player in how well we move. So it allows all the different tissues on different layers to basically slide and glide amongst each other in 3D space, but also help prevent any extra movement. So classically, people think of the brain stimulating the muscle to contract, and all of a sudden it's causing movement at a joint. But movement is actually much more complex than that, because movement at any one part of one muscle influences movement, before and after that point along the chain of stress according to the direction of movement. So take, for example, a body weight squat. You may be doing a great squat with great form, and it looks exactly the same on rep 1 as it does on rep 10. But that doesn't mean that the same components of muscle or the same fibers are firing each and every time that you perform the squat. So the brain, it has to process all this peripheral information to get the fibers to fire in sequence. And so your first rep, you might use these fibers, and then your second rep, you might use these fibers. Your third rep, your brain is going to kind of figure out the best options for you to get a different combination of muscle fibers and coordinate it to make the reps happen from 1 to 10. And so it's all about creating good movement variability. And so we're not robots. We don't move in one direction, we move in 3D space. So we have to get multiple muscles and tissues and joints involved for something like the squat. And we have to get these muscle fibers to fire in different sequences. That's complicated and coordinated. And that means they're doing this in 3D space. So again, it's not front to back, it's not side to side. There's a rotation component involved in well. And in order to get these complicated sequences involved, that's where fascia plays a role. So fascia will help coordinate that movement. It allows it to be adaptable and fluid and dynamic. And that's awesome, because that's what we're all about here at Rebel Mobility and Fitness. We promote the development of good movement variability, because that allows the body to be capable of modifying and changing the game plan according to the demands of life that are thrown at us. So in the real world, your brain has to, in a split second, has to process all this peripheral information to figure out, what are our possibilities, what are our movement options, and it needs good options to make good choices and to pick the best choice for you to make something happen. So this is how we avoid chronic overuse injuries or small things becoming bigger things down the road. So if all these different layers are going to basically function properly, then we need better movement options. We need them to be able to slide and glide on each other in different directions, in different planes, for the good variables that we need to accommodate the life that we have. Now, hyaluron is produced in the body, and it's found in connective tissue, and basically it binds with water to keep all these tissues from getting too thick. All right, so what it does is it promotes spacing, and it promotes slide and glide between the different layers. But whenever the hyaluron also becomes tangled, that's when it starts to repel water, and it makes this really thick, and it creates less space and less slide and glide. And that's where the different layers of connective tissues start to create kinks in the system. This leads to the layers adhering and sticking to each other, and instead of sliding and gliding, our movement options are decreased because we have less variability in the system. So since fascia surrounds every muscle and every nerve and every joint in the body, it also means it's communicating information with the nervous system about the environment around it. And so while a muscle might contract after it's sent a signal from the brain, the fascia will help smooth and coordinate out that movement so that it can happen in real life in 3D space. So when your foot hits the floor, or you're pushing or pulling or pressing overhead with your hands, the movement has to be coordinated, and everything has to do its right job at the right place at the right time. Timing is everything. So if one component is off, the rest of the chain has to take up the slack. The brain will figure out a new system, but there's stress on the system, And that's where a dedicated mobility plan and dedicated recovery plan can help you improve the environment that fascia exists in to create a better environment for movement options. This helps you decrease the likelihood of developing, a chronic overuse injuries or having bad options developing an acute injury. So, the idea is facilitate a good working environment. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you have questions. Stay strong, inspire others.